All right, let's talk about unlocking our best ideas. We live in this crazy, hyper-connected world, and we're always looking for the next big tool. But what if the secret isn't an app or some expensive subscription? What if it's just a pair of shoes? Let's dive in. You know this feeling, right? You're sitting at your desk, staring at a problem on the screen, and you think, okay, I just need to focus harder. So you lean in, you tune everything out, and somehow the answer just gets further and further away. It's just so frustrating, and it happens to all of us. So what's going on here? Well, it's something we can call the desk-bound paradox. We've been taught that to think harder, we need to sit stiller, to really concentrate. But it turns out the science actually points in the complete opposite direction. There's a name for this: cognitive entrenchment. It's basically a state where our intense focus starts working against us. When we just sit there staring, our brains get kind of stuck in a mental traffic jam. We fire up our analytical brain, which is great for solving puzzles we already know how to solve, but it shuts down the creative, wandering part we need for a real breakthrough. We literally get trapped inside our own thoughts. But here's the cool part. The solution isn't some brand new biohack or fancy tech. Nope, it's a secret that's been hiding in plain sight for centuries. And some of the greatest thinkers in history were all in on it. I mean, take the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche. He was absolutely emphatic about this. He basically said he didn't trust a single thought that didn't pop into his head while he was outside walking. For him, moving his body and thinking great thoughts were, well, they were the same thing. And it wasn't just him. Henry David Thoreau felt that exact same connection. That feeling when the rhythm of your feet just seems to unlock the flow of ideas in your head. I think we've all felt a little spark of that, right? He just put it into perfect words. And for some, this was way more than just a casual habit. It was a full-on ritual. Charles Darwin actually laid out a specific thinking path, his famous sand walk. This is where he'd go every single day to piece together his world-changing ideas about evolution one step at a time. Now you might be thinking, okay, that's cool for old-timey thinkers. But guess what? This practice is alive and well. Tech giants like Steve Jobs and Mark Zuckerberg were famous for their walking meetings. Some of Apple's biggest decisions weren't made in some stuffy boardroom, but out on the streets of Palo Alto. So the stories are incredible, and the names are legendary. But what is actually going on inside our brains when we step outside? Let's get into the science. Okay, look at this number, 60%. Just let that sink in for a second. That's not a small bump. That is a massive, massive leap. Yup, that's the average boost in creative output you get from walking, according to a huge study out of Stanford University. And it didn't matter if it was on a treadmill inside or a path outside. A 60% jump. This isn't just a feeling, it's a number you can measure. So how does this magic happen? A huge part of the answer is something called the default mode network, or DMN. You can kind of think of it as your brain's imagination network. When you're laser focused at your desk, this network is pretty quiet. But the moment you start walking and let your mind wander, it lights up like a Christmas tree, connecting old ideas in brand new ways. Okay, but here is a super important catch. Walking isn't a silver bullet for every single type of thinking. That same Stanford study found it's a rock star for divergent thinking. That's brainstorming, coming up with tons of new, wild ideas. But it did nothing for convergent thinking. That focused, analytical work where you need one single correct answer. So the takeaway is simple. Walk to come up with a list of ideas, but sit back down to do your taxes. So let's get into the nitty gritty. Physically, walking pumps about 25% more blood, oxygen, and glucose, brain fuel, to your head. The simple act of coordinating your body also strengthens the connection between the logical and creative sides of your brain. And here's the best part, the real kicker. This creative flow doesn't just disappear when you stop. You get this residual boost that lasts for a few minutes even after you sit back down. It's like a creative afterburner. Okay, so we get the why. Now for the how. How do we turn this from a nice idea into a practical tool that you can actually use to get breakthroughs? Let's build your toolkit. It can be as simple as this three-step recipe. First, before you even put your shoes on, frame the problem. Just get clear on what you're trying to figure out. Second, and this is the most important and maybe the hardest part, just walk and let your mind wander. Don't try to force the solution, just let it go. And finally, the second you get back, grab a notebook. Spend 10 minutes just dumping out every single thought, idea, or image that came to you. Those ideas are slippery. You gotta catch them fast. And you can actually customize your walk depending on what you need. Think of it like a menu. If you need a fresh jolt of inspiration, take a totally new route or walk in nature. If you need to really chew on a tough problem, stick to a familiar path so you're not distracted, just like Darwin did. A quick 15-minute walk is amazing for an energy boost, and a walk after eating is a total game changer for your health. And here's a pro tip, especially for work. Got a tricky conversation or a sensitive meeting coming up? Take it for a walk. Seriously, research shows that walking meetings actually lower hostility and make people way more open to cooperating and finding common ground. It literally puts you both on the same path, moving in the same direction. So let's bring this all home. In our world, we're constantly on the hunt for the next productivity hack, the next life-changing app, the next big thing that's going to make us smarter and more creative. But what if the greatest productivity tool of all isn't new? What if it's ancient? What if it's not on our phones, but in our feet? It's been with us this whole time, this fundamental human act that connects our bodies, our minds, and the world around us in a way that no piece of tech ever could. Look, your next great idea isn't hiding in your email inbox. It's not going to pop up in another Zoom meeting. It's out there, waiting for you, on a sidewalk, a trail, or a path somewhere. It's just one step away. So the only real question is, where will your next walk take you?